No matter where you look, indie games just seem to keep winning. Every few weeks or so, another indie game comes out of nowhere and completely takes the internet by storm. Meanwhile, you have studios spending millions of dollars that are struggling to keep players interested. Which has got me thinking, why does this keep happening? Why do indie developers continue to make games people can't stop talking about, when AAA studios struggle to do the same? Let's take a look into why your new favorite game is probably not an $80 one. Recently, I've been seeing clips of Mecha Chameleon all over my YouTube feed. For those of you that don't know, Mecha Chameleon is a game where you play as a white blob, and your main goal is to use paint and your surroundings to try to camouflage yourself into the environment, while other players try to find you. This game reminded me a lot of Prop Hunt with Garry's Mod, so I know I had to try it out. And honestly, I'm pretty terrible at the game. The controls are a little clunky and hard to get used to, and I have a horrible time trying to blend into the environment. But despite all of this, the game feels surprisingly fun, and is relatively good at keeping me engaged with it while playing. I remember at first I was kind of nervous about trying to find a place to hide, and the first few sessions I was scrambling and trying to even find a decent hiding spot. There were other matches where I tried to lock in, most of which ended up with me almost instantly being found out. No! No! Oh man, that sucks. I remember one where I wasn't sure where to hide, but in the map I saw one of these gnomes and thought to myself, well, maybe if I curl up into a little ball and pretend to be one of the gnomes' hands, maybe I could hide in plain sight. And sure enough, that worked. Well, kind of. I almost immediately got caught shortly after. Come on. You gotta know. I was gonna say, dude, there's no way. But that's when it hit me. This game wasn't trying to impress me. It was just trying to entertain me. That's the thing about indie games. They don't just feel fun, they feel personal. I honestly have already spent hours playing Mecha Chameleon, half of which I'm trying to hold in laughter as other players try to find me. I felt the same way with Schedule 1, when I was trying to build my perfect strain, or with Megabonk when I was trying to play as Giga Chad and flex my way to the top of the leaderboards. Indie games remind me of the times when games were built on the idea of fun instead of the idea of profit, and they valued the player's time more than they valued their wallet. These developers understand their audience, which I feel like many AAA developers fail to do. Now look, I'm not here to say that AAA games are bad. In fact, many of my favorite titles come from AAA studios. For instance, I've spent hundreds of hours in games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring. One of my favorite moments was learning how to successfully parry in Sekiro, or me falling in love again with Cyberpunk 2077 after watching Edgerunners, and running around with gorilla arms literally trying to beat up cyberpsychos. There are many, many examples of AAA games that simply crush it in terms of gameplay. The problem arises when AAA studios stop looking at games as games and look more at games like investments. AAA studios pour hundreds of millions of dollars, years of development, and thousands of employees into their games. When you're risking all of that, you stop asking, is this fun? And you start asking, well, will this sell? And this isn't to say that AAA developers are any less talented than their indie counterparts. It's just simply because larger studios have problems that indie developers simply just don't have. Indie developers can usually just ask, well, is this actually fun? Where AAA studios don't always get to be that simple. Also, it's a lot easier to convince someone to pay $6 for a game as opposed to $80. Indie games usually don't ask you, is this fun? They just show you. For Schedule 1, it's growing your drug empire. For Megabonk, it's getting the highest score as humanly possible. And for Mecha Chameleon, it's doing your best to blend in and not be seen. None of these games require you to grind for hours to see little progress or results. They don't make you play unskippable cutscenes where 30 minutes of gameplay is locked behind hours of what essentially becomes a movie reel. They immediately put you in the world, give you constant reward, and don't treat you like a wallet. These games value the time you put into them, no matter how big or how small. And that's why I think indie games are just doing it better right now than modern AAA titles. Maybe that's why I keep finding myself coming back to indie games. The goal of these games is not to become the next billion-dollar franchise, but just to make something fun and enjoyable to play. These games remind me why I started playing games in the first place. And I think somewhere along the way, AAA studios forgot that fun was supposed to come first.
This is so dumb. I love it though. This game is so much fun. Oh, goodness.
But anyway, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. Tell me, what was the last game that you played that reminded you of your love for gaming? Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, you're gonna love my last video, in which I talk about why it's not just nostalgia, and that older games just hit different. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, and peace!